Tariffs, are they overall good or bad for a country? I have picked a particular Twitter thread from Balaji Srinivasan. He used to be the CTO at Coinbase, somebody that I value a lot in terms of his intellect and his capacity to be able to understand things. By the way, he has appeared on many Indian channels also, including 𝗪𝗡𝗏 𝗔𝗏. And I just wanted to take a look at what he's saying and try to explain what is going on right now, because it's not a matter of just economics. There's much more to it than just economics. And even as we say these things, some changes have come to the 25% tariffs, and I'm going to talk to you also about that. So please like this video, and if you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to our channel. Here we go. Countering negativity on tariffs. So tariffs, one of the things that people say, well, there are 10 things that he said, and I'm going to go one by one and try to explain to you why this is imperative now. So tariffs are not a good idea for the US. Deregulation should be pursued instead. Is it true? First of all, Balaji should explain what he means by deregulation. Any specifics? Is there anything that would definitely open the spigot for United States so that it can bridge the 36 trillion deficit? The problem right now is the trust in the United States dollar. And that's what is the bigger problem. And I don't know how much that is being thought of when he offered this commentary here. But anyway, what is deregulation? What exactly are you going to deregulate? Most of America is already deregulated. So first of all, tariffs protect the US home market, and this is the number one reason. But China only sends 16% of its goods to the US. So even if Trump's 10% tariff doesn't phase them, because they are selling 84% to other countries. Let's take up this one. Well, actually, before that, I want to tell you the latest update, what has happened. Trump has put a pause for another month on specific product categories from both Canada and Mexico. First category is automobiles coming in from Canada. Those are exempt. Second one is there is a North American trade agreement called USMCA, United States, Mexico, Canada, I think. And under this, if products are made, those are going to be exempted from the 25% tariff for a period of 1 month. They are trying to make a determination as to how they can corner those products that are being manufactured by China in Mexico or with China's inducement into Mexico and Canada, and keep those things out. It's not easy. I think this is a direct or indirect agreement to the observation that tariffs are not good. See, tariffs by themselves are not the end. The end is to try and bring a level playing field, which I'll talk about in the course of this slide deck. Where are all the problems that China has introduced for the whole world, not just America? And China is not going to be able to sell a lot, because even for it to buy its own raw materials, which it turns it into finished goods and sells to the world, it needs to pay for it in dollars. And if dollars are not forthcoming, how is it going to get the raw materials? You are striking at the root of China's structure when you do tariffs on products coming into United States. How will China do it? No other country is willing to accept anything other than US dollars for their products, their raw materials that they give to China. And China insists on every country to give them the dollars for whatever they get. What, like this 84% that are going to be sold to other countries, they are not paying for it in yuan. They have done some specific one-off instances of a yuan that has a digital component to it, where Iran actually got paid for some of its oil using gold that Shanghai Exchange made it available, because that is a convertible currency called digital yuan, which is backed with some gold, and they said, okay, we'll get paid for it in gold. This was a trial run. This cannot be done every day. We know this has not worked. Why do you think Nixon took the United States dollar off of the gold standard in 1971? It doesn't sustain. It cannot be sustained. So that is one side. Now, what is America trying to do? They are trying to also fix their US dollar. Maybe I'll have a separate episode on that, because it doesn't quite match in this, but this is not a single dimensional problem. It's not just a tariff. It is economics, it's culture, it is politics, it is war by other means. There are a lot of other things in play. This is where you have to look at it. You can't just say that economically it doesn't make sense. We all understand that by making something more expensive, it's going to directly drive up the costs in the United States. But tell me something, Balaji. What about the first time around when the United States imposed tariffs on China? That was in, I think, late 2017 or 18. Prices didn't go up. What happened then? How do you explain that? It was 10% or 20%. I don't remember exactly how much it was with China. That didn't drive up the price. Why? Also, China has a very funny model in the sense that they go after a market, they overproduce with the intent of grabbing the entire world's market share. You want examples? Electric vehicles, solar panels, and now recently steel. Do you know how much steel China has produced? They have produced steel which is 9 times the distance it would take to go from Earth to Moon and back. That is the amount of steel sheets that China has produced. Where's the demand for it? There isn't. They're just dumping it in the global market. And against that, US has imposed higher tariffs. Same thing, higher tariffs against EVs. Because the EVs have been overproduced and they're all from that one company. They're all sitting in various ports, not just in the United States, but also in Europe. So if you say that US's loss is Europe's gain, why are they not importing these cars? There's a problem. There's a huge problem. China is using its economic might to try and destroy some industries across the world. So they remain the sole producer, and once it is established that they are the sole producer, they'll start driving up the costs. The same thing was used by other countries also, including Japan. So there is history that tells you that trying to corner the market, regardless of the demand, is disastrous for the country that tries it. And that's what is going to happen to China also. And Netherlands is an example. You are saying that it is not classifying ASML machines as dual use, opening them up for China. I have to look into it in more detail. But remember that even in ASML, there is a problem. There are 2 components to the machines that ASML sells. One part is the scanner, the other part is the source. The sources are being manufactured in San Diego in the United States. And without that, ASML cannot sell just the scanner. So I see a problem even there. I'm going to the specific product that we are talking about, ASML machines, because I've worked in that company. I know exactly what they do and why they do it and how it gets distributed and so on and so forth. So tariffs are being levied now to try and wake people up to the reality. There are many places inside Mexico where China has already built up industrial cities. They have built up industrial cities which they were hoping would manufacture there and pass it off as made in Mexico products. How do you stop this? You can't tell Mexico that they can't do this or that, right? How do you stop this? So these are all some of the problems that United States is grappling with. The other problem that US has is China often has its own police stations keeping track on its origin people across the world. And this happens even in the United States. We have done programs on that. How do you stop that? If somebody is living in the United States following US laws, then why should they be put under the cosh by China? How do you fix this problem? And in fentanyl, it's a much bigger layered problem. They are selling precursors, which are sort of like starting materials for making fentanyl. They're also selling finished products, and they have produced so much more that it can kill 3 times all the people that are living in the United States. How do you solve this problem? So there is a huge drive to oversupply some specific markets by China, and that one needs to be stopped. That's why the tariffs are the only way I see it until some control comes into the market. And what happens if China has produced a lot of EVs, a lot of steel, a lot of this, a lot of that, and can't find any buyers. What happens then? This is a finished product. They can't melt it and do something else. Plus, much of that is sitting in various ports. So this is a slightly more complicated problem than what is being made out here. Yes, tariffs in the short term are going to be painful. I'm not going to mince words here. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is going to mean higher prices, especially for products coming from Mexico and perhaps from Canada too. But in the long term, countries find ways to manage the price, because say 3 countries are manufacturing the same product and one of them has a tariff overhead of 25%. It makes it easier for the other 2 to completely wipe out the first country, which is levying 25% tariffs, isn't it? So this is one way to put even more pressure on China, so they don't indulge in these kinds of tactics where they overproduce products and try to corner the market. Japan, India, US could control after a while, but China is a much bigger fish. It's a much higher, much more potent adversary in that respect. And that's why all this is happening. And you also know that inside China, they have a bigger problem. They have built, I think, 2 times a house for every person who can buy a house there, something of that nature. And nobody's buying their houses, nobody's living in them. They're even bringing down skyscrapers. So, point I'm trying to make is China has moved so far away from a simple business model of trying to be the manufacturer of the world and also trying to adjust itself to the supply and demand vagaries of the world. The moment you go away from that, then you are into a totally different orbit. Rules don't matter. The rules of the world, the way that has been happening, those things don't matter. They all go out the window. The US has a money printer, fair enough. In US has been printing money like there is no tomorrow. It can just directly invest in specific industries that are strategic rather than adopting the extremely imprecise instrument of tariffs. See, the thing again here, the observation is made without looking at the extent to which China has penetrated Mexico in terms of what it's going to manufacture there and pass it off as a Mexican product. Do you know that the free trade agreement between India and UK got stalled because UK was trying to pass off Chinese-made equipment as their own and insisting that those be under lower taxes? It doesn't work that way. That's why the FTA has been stalled with UK. They tried and tried and tried and tried, but it didn't work. This is essentially population members, and also it's a little bit odd in the sense that Balaji chooses to say only there are 77 million MAGA. I think he's talking about those people who voted for MAGA. Voting is one thing, following the rules is another. So I would say even that number is lower than that. You have to be able to afford what you can and then only buy it. And using population numbers is not going to work in this case because of the simple example I said. The EVs are not being accepted by any European country either. There is a problem. There is a huge problem. The EV quality also is suspect, I believe, and the fact that these are so they are going to undercut the market so badly that no manufacturer will be able to make any car anywhere outside China. That was the intent. Same thing with steel. So these kinds of attitudes and strategies that China employs, you have to have a way to counter that. And I don't know how deregulation can counter that. Deregulation of what? I mean, I'm hoping that Balaji would come on PGurus and we will take these things up one by one and dissect them, and with also have it live so that viewers can participate and we can have a really good debate on how should America deal with this? How should the Trump administration deal with this? And this is the valid point that Pierre Poilievre suddenly becomes a Canadian and opposes what Trump is saying, but Pierre doesn't talk about what kind of impact that the fentanyl that they have allowed to come in from China is doing. Also, please understand, the Biden administration also is guilty here. They did allow anyone and everyone to come in. You had these photo ops of Biden standing at the border and waving people in, come on in, come on in, come on in. It's a travesty of justice. I mean, all the rules thrown out just thinking that somebody wanted a new world order where borders don't matter. I mean, 100 million buys you that kind of privilege. That's news to me. Anyway, so the China strategy of wanting to make free trade agreements, China has already proven that it is much more predatory and nobody trusts them. These agreements can be written and signed, but implementation on the ground, I really doubt it. There's a valid point here that Republicans already inherited a hot war with Russia that was of making of the Democrats, a cold war with China, it has been going on for a while, and a cold civil war with Democrats. That's more Democrats than Republicans, in my opinion. Why open up a completely new conflicts with Canada? Well, this is something where things are going to come to a speedy conclusion. Already now we say another month has been deferred, and I think speedy discussions will take place, and I think Canada will come to the discussion table. They will figure out what is going on. By the way, Balaji, I don't know how much you know, many of the meat products are taxed at 76%, 80% by Canada. If a particular type of meat is manufactured in US, exported to Canada, it attracts a duty of 76, 80%. I'll be happy to give you the link on what the actual numbers are vis-a-vis specific products. How does deregulation help there? So, point I'm trying to make is this is not just an economic problem, it's a much more multidimensional problem, and a problem that Trump administration is trying to get its hands around to try and establish a new world commerce order. So people don't arbitrarily, just because they happen to have the money, build up something for which there is no demand. So this is where things stand. I would be happy to debate this more. And viewers, please do send in your comments. You are a very erudite audience for us. We would love to hear from you. And like I said, this is mostly a threat, but the response usually is much more milder. It's a starting point in an argument or a discussion. The agreement point will be something else. I'm hoping that something like that will happen in this case also, because already United States is under the burden of a lot of oversupply of money, and that is driving inflation up, and this will only make it worse. But how do you tame the dragon? That is the question. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.